Hey everybody, Rory McDonald from MacDonald and Associates coming to you with the newest episode of Tuesdays with Rory. And on today's episode, we're going to be talking through appraisals. This is going to be a kind of a bigger topic, but we're going to be getting into appraisals, what they are not, and quite honestly, some of the intricacies that we run into as real estate agents representing our clients well when it comes to that appraisal. So to kick us off, just so that everybody knows, when we sell houses here at MacDonald and Associates, we actually don't sell homes just one time. This is, a lot of real estate agents don't view it this way. This is how we view it. Reality is every single home that we sell here in the state of Michigan, regardless of where it's located, we have to sell that home 3 different times. Every home that we sell it 3 different times. The way that we do this is, first of all, we have to sell that home first to a purchaser. We have to sell it to a buyer and convince him that the home that he is buying or she is buying is worth the value that it's at. It's worth the amount that they are paying for it for what it is that they're getting. The second person that we need to sell the home to is an inspector. The inspectors, they come in, they check the home out, they find out issues with it, issues that don't exist, issues that do exist, some things super small, like a faceplate missing on a light switch, to bigger things like we see, like foundation issues and structural issues. That is real, that does exist here within these homes here in the state of Michigan. And the last person that we have to sell the home to is an appraiser. And that is where we're going to be spending most of our time on today, is talking through the appraisal, what it is, like I said, what it is not, and then also my role as the realtor within the transactions, representing you, my client, well, so that you are netting the most amount of money or having to spend the least amount of money as a purchaser or a seller. So that's what we're jumping into. It's going to be super exciting. Right now, just to give you guys an idea, appraisals, what are they? So when you are purchasing a home here in the state of Michigan, really, this is anywhere in the United States, when you are purchasing a home and that purchase is with a mortgage, the bank is lending you the money in order for you to then purchase that home, and you will pay the bank back as you live in the home. That's known as your mortgage. Or your mortgage payment, and then the mortgage is the money that they give to the seller in order for them to be happy moving on with the home and the sale. So the appraisal, what that is the bank's way of saying, hey, we want to make sure that what we are investing in is actually worth what you're paying for. We believe you as the bank. We think that it's worth what you're saying that it is, but we just want to make sure. So we're going to send somebody out that is a non-biased third party to go and take a look at this home to determine that it is actually worth the value that you say it is, Mr. Buyer, that you say it is, Mr. Seller, and that we can then move forward with lending the money to our buyer to pay you, Mr. Seller, to purchase this home. And then they will eventually pay us back in those mortgage payments like we spoke about. Well, oftentimes what happens is, and this is like perfect world, let's just pretend you're purchasing a property and it's a $500,000 house. And you as the buyer, the appraiser goes out and he says, the home is worth $550,000. You and me, we give each other a nice big high five, knowing that you now have $50,000 worth of equity in your home. That is not information that you as a purchaser are required to share with anybody, including your real estate agent. But you know then you have all this equity in your home, and awesome. You can pull that money out. You can redo a kitchen. You can leave it in there and continue to build equity just by paying your mortgage and living in that home. It's entirely up to you at that point. But you know in the back of your mind that you made a purchase that financially you're getting more than what you paid for it. Okay. There's a flip side to this. In the case that you go in that exact same property that you're buying for $500,000, and the appraiser goes in and said, this is not worth $500,000. Instead, rather, it is worth $400,000. This is where we run into issues as realtors, and we're seeing this a ton in the market right now. Over the course of the last 2 years, as many of you probably, if you've purchased in the last 2 years, you had to give this guarantee behind your offer known as an appraisal guarantee. That ranged anywhere from a couple $100 all the way up to hundreds of thousands of dollars when it came to purchasing, so that if an issue like this ever arose where you are purchasing a home for $500 and the appraiser says it's worth $400, you then come up with that difference to make up the difference between the 400 and the 500. This could be, like I said, a couple $100. This could be the full $100,000 to bring you all the way up to the 500. That is what we saw a lot during COVID, coming out of COVID over the course of the last really like 36 months or so. We've been seeing a ton of that. And that is starting to slow down and is starting to go away, where we're not seeing a ton of appraisal guarantees on stuff. They do still exist. They are still real. In fact, I'm going to share with you an example of one where we had a client here that gave an appraisal guarantee, and it worked out really, really great in their favor. But I'll share that in a minute. But we're not seeing this as much anymore. What we're in fact seeing is people coming in and putting offers for less without those guarantees. And in the case that happens, so go back to my example, $500,000 house, you go under contract for, appraiser says it's worth 400. There's one of three things, really four things that can happen in that instance. The first thing is the seller looks at you and says, you know what, I'm happy selling it the 400. I'll sell for 400. And you as the buyer go, heck yeah, I'm going to get this for $100,000 less than what I thought it was. I'm going to move forward. This is great. Let's keep going. The second option is the seller says, I'm not obligated, and they're not obligated to sell the home to you at that $400,000. So they say, look, Mr. Buyer, either you come up with this full difference up to 500, or I'm just not going to sell the house to you. I'll sell it to somebody else and I'll move on and I'll find somebody else to buy this home for 500,000. That's another option. The third option is you end up meeting somewhere in the middle. The buyer says, you know, hey, I can't come up with the full 100,000, but I can come up with 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, 70,000, whatever it might be, in order to lessen that blow for the seller. And then the fourth option is maybe you go down one of those roads of trying to negotiate and come to a conclusion so that both parties are happy, and you just can't come to it, and you back out as a purchaser and you say, hey, I'm not going to move forward with this. I thought it was a $500,000 house. It's not. It's a $400,000 house. I'm not interested anymore. I'm going to back out. I'm not going to move forward with this purchase. And so that you are not required to then, in the state of Michigan at least, give up your earnest money deposit. You can still obtain that and hold on to that money because it's rightfully yours. You couldn't move forward due to the financing. Now, here's a quick thing with us as realtors, and this is not all of us. I'll be honest with you. I know me. There's several other realtors that I've worked with and are on our team here that do a really good job of arguing appraisals well when we have an instance that they come in low. So to give you a quick example, we had a client recently who just closed on a home. He purchased this house. It was listed at $950,000. He came in and said, hey, look, I love this home. This is everything that I've been looking for. I'm willing to pay more for it. And he made an offer, and that offer was accepted at $975,000. Now, in the midst of us putting that offer, we were competing with other offers. And so in addition to coming in $25,000 higher, he also said, hey, I'm also going to give a guarantee on my appraisal. So he said, I'm guaranteed I'm not going to spend, or excuse me, I'm going to make up, if there's a difference that comes in, I will make up that difference. And the reason behind that is because he felt in the case that the appraisal doesn't come in low, there's a really good chance it's only going to be a couple $1,000s, maybe $10,000. And he was okay with being below and having to pay that out of his pocket. He was okay with that. Well, we go and we get the appraisal done, and the appraisal comes in at $880,000, $95,000 less than what it is that he was under contract to purchase that home for. So this is where we go to work. Me, the listing agent, who is an amazing agent. I hope to have her on this podcast one day. We go to work and we begin arguing with the appraisal. And it's called arguing. This is literally what it's called. We didn't get on the phone and yell at each other. This is called arguing the appraisal or fighting the appraisal. We go and we argue it, we fight it, and we say, hey, look, because of this reason, this reason, this reason, this reason, this reason, here's the reason why we believe that the value of the property should be greater than that $880,000 that you marked it at. Can you please reassess? The appraiser came back and said, no, sorry, I'm not willing to do that. And so we just continued kind of to argue this and fight it. It went to underwriting. Underwriting, just so that you guys know, is the bank's way of like making sure everything is in order and everything is ready before the closing. Sends it over to underwriting, sends our information as well. And the underwriter comes back and says, hey, I can understand where these real estate agents are coming from. They're fighting hard on this. They must know this area extremely well. It was in Shelby Township. We definitely do. It's right down the road. It's less than a couple miles from where our office is right now that I'm filming this. And they said, you know what? We're doing, in some ways, we're doing a disservice right now. We need to have a new appraisal done on this property. Order it. So they ordered this new appraisal. The appraiser goes out. They're there for a few hours, and 2 or 3 days later, we get an appraisal that comes back at our full amount. And if you're a realtor watching this, you know that that's next to unheard of to come up $85,000 to the full ask price. It doesn't happen. It's crazy. Typically, you'll have people come up a couple thousand, maybe 10,000, 20,000. But to come up the full amount all the way to our contract price from the 880,000 all the way to 975 in a matter of a few days is absolutely insane. Here's the beautiful thing about this, and this is why I'm sharing this with you all. In the midst of that, here's all those different options of what could have happened because the appraisal came in $85,000 less. Buyer could have backed out and said, forget it. Seller could have said, hey, I can't sell for that amount. I'm out. Buyer could have come up, met somewhere in the middle. Buyer would have had to come up with an additional $95,000 out of their pocket. And they wanted to do renovations. So that was like I really don't want to do this. I want these renovations done. But because we were able to go in, argue this appraisal, get it to come up to the full amount of $975,000, our purchaser did not have to come out with any other money out of his pocket. The seller left happy because they got what they needed in order to move on to their next home. And really, everybody was really, really happy with how that all turned out. It was good. Our client now loves his home. He's very excited about it. He's living in that house, doing his renovations that I spoke about. And the seller is moving on to their next steps too. So this is the reason why I share this with you guys is it's super important that you're working with not just a realtor that's had their license for a short period of time, but you're working with somebody who's experienced not only with selling and buying homes, but working with other agents when it comes to selling and buying homes. Because oftentimes what I run into, and I know some of you other agents feel this too, what happens is there's this animosity that exists between two agents, but it's unwarranted and it's not good. Everybody wants the same thing. Our buyer wants to buy the house. Our seller wants to sell the house. Really what our two agents need to do is come together and work together in order to accomplish this goal for our clients with the best terms available for both parties that they're both satisfied and happy with, to be in a spot where we can move forward. And I'm so happy that I had the opportunity to do that with this agent, and do what was best for our clients as well. So that just kind of gives you guys a little bit of an idea of what happens with appraisals, as well as like a real life story that happened very recently within the last couple of weeks of what we're seeing in the market now. If you have more questions about this, if you have more questions about appraisals, or maybe you'd like a good idea of the value of your home in today's market based off of what's happened in the last couple months with interest rates rising, give us a call over here at Macdown Associates. I'd be happy to do that. And but besides that, guys, thanks for joining on today's episode of Tuesdays with Rory, and have a very blessed day. See ya.